Welcome everyone. Before I introduce the people in the studio and those joining us virtually, I want to give a bit of background to how UNIfy Festival came about. When Professor Shirley Congdon became Vice-Chancellor of the university in 2019, it was clear from the start that her vision for the university and the city and her inclusive leadership would drive a new, energised direction for the Events and Partnerships team. That's us, here in the studio today, and responsible for the development of the UNIfy Festival, as well as a range of university engagement events and partnerships. With a new strategy that focused on an approach of people, place and performance, we had a clear understanding that the connection between the university, our people and the city of Bradford would be central to all our work. As a team, we started to think of new ideas for events that would support our new strategy and vision. Those ideas and that consultation with partners, staff and students led us to UNIfy, a week-long festival of inspiration, collaboration and innovation. A festival that celebrates the impact of the University of Bradford, its partners and our wonderful city, Bradford. Our initial vision for the festival included bringing our communities onto campus to city locations and celebrating online and in person. Pesky COVID-19 restrictions put that plan to pause, but we decided to proceed with an online programme of events, and these were based on the themes of heritage and pride, building resilience, enterprise and innovation. Through an open consultation, we got 45 ideas for content, which has resulted in 16 events, 70 speakers representing more than 50 organisations and 15 official partners of the festival. Although it's been led by the University of Bradford, the development and delivery of this festival has been truly collaborative. We are grateful to all our contributors and event hosts for sharing our enthusiasm. So, we're just going to take a look at a short highlight reel, and this has been prepared for us by the Digital Working Academy based here at the university.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to the first event of the UNIfy Festival 2021.
These inequalities start early. They start in early life and they get worse rapidly. So what can we do?
We want to be known as the place to be to make that difference. I'm delighted to introduce this afternoon's event designed to provoke discussion and debate on the early years of life through harnessing the insights revealed.
We need different tools, different activities to take us to where we want to. But that has to link in with a strategic direction.
The University of Bradford is proud to be a university of sanctuary and to work alongside the city to welcome and support asylum seekers and refugees.
I feel safe here, very safe.
I believe in the potential and the growth of Bradford, and I believe we, the young population, can add to the success, and that's how this event came about.
I noticed that one of your most prestigious and renowned productions was in the Peace-Hall Yard, which I believe was based around the floods in Calderdale.
It was. I've done quite a lot of work on climate change.
Good afternoon, everyone. The anticipation is everything. Welcome to the Long Service and the Standing Achievers Awards.
Congratulations to all the winners, all of the people that have been commended, all of the nominees, and also our staff who've received Long Service Awards.
I hope to see you all soon on Zoom, on Teams, and even better, back on campus. Have a lovely spring evening. Good night.
Wow, that makes me feel very proud and just a little bit exhausted. I don't know about you guys. I'm now going to introduce some of our colleagues in the studio. I have with me Hannah Ward, she's our Senior Corporate Engagement Officer, Anna Yara Gonzalez, our Engagement Officer, and Rich Warburton, who's Artistic Director at Theatre of the Mill. We've also got our wonderful Vice-Chancellor, Professor Shirley Congdon, joining us on Zoom. I'm going to ask them just to give a few reflections of the festival, and please feel free to add your own into the chat before we move on to the pitch part of this event. So I'm going to start with you, Shirley. You've been so active with UNIfy this week. I just wonder if you could share some of your highlights and any comments you've got for our audience today.
Well, I'm hoping everybody else feels the same as me. When I watched that video, and I'm so delighted that you produced it, it really just made me smile. And it made me feel, as you said, really proud. I said at our staff events recently that since I was appointed in 2019 in August, which was Yorkshire Day, there's never a day gone by when somebody or something hasn't happened in Bradford University or the city in the region that has not made me feel a real sense of pride. And I'm really proud to be the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Bradford, especially this in the city. Who would want to be a Vice-Chancellor anywhere else? And this UNIfy Festival, for me, has done everything I expected it to do. It's been an amazing vehicle to convene people across the city who have shared their knowledge, their experiences, their passion in a way that's just overwhelmed me. And it's really exposed the jewels that we have in Bradford. And if we can do this in COVID time, you know, what can we do when we're in some other sort of world where things are more regular? And I just think this is a great platform for us to move forward on. And I just want the university to do more of this, to be outward facing and to be the convening power where people can come and be themselves and share their diversity.
Absolutely. I think we're just so lucky to be so well placed in the city to be able to convene these sorts of events, and the enthusiasm from our partners and communities has been absolutely fantastic in engaging with this festival. And Rich, I know you've hosted an event this week. How was your experience of the festival, and what was your event like?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, I have to say. So we hosted one that was looking at the impact of legacy months, history months, and how ways in which of avoiding tokenism. I think with anything, and like with all the events here, I think the way I see it, it's great is that it's that launch pad, it's that start of the conversation rather than the end of it. And I think that's true of all of the things that I've seen in the UNIfy, that they've begun something which hopefully we'll see, you know, having roots here that will blossom as well later in the year as well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think that's a part of what this event is today as well. We're bringing in some ideas that weren't able to be developed. So there'll be some things that we'll be talking about now that will develop throughout the year, and some of that's the content from this year, but some new ideas as well. So Anna and Hannah, you've been developing a load of events this week. Perhaps it's a bit hard to ask you for your highlights. It might be like asking you to choose your favourite child, but as women who only have one child, that's probably easy for both of you. But Anna, maybe I'll come to you first. What would you like to just highlight about the festival?
Yeah, I think the highlights for me have been working with our partners and the students of the university as well. I think the festival has been a great platform to allow us to engage with partners and co-create these events. If I had to pick two, I would say the Sanctuary event on Wednesday I learned a lot about the amazing projects that we have in the city to support refugees and asylum seekers, and I had the privilege of working with some of these organizations to co-create the event. So, and also learn about some of these refugees as well. But also working with Zoya, one of our students here at the university, computer science students, to develop the business, student business and innovation event on Tuesday, and learning about all the hard work and all the passion. It was very contagious, their energy. I love just working with partners and our students.
Yeah, well, Anna is our engagement officer, so it'd be no surprise that she enjoyed the human interaction part of the festival. And Zoya made that reel there, that highlights reel. She was a fantastic ambassador for the festival. She really sort of developed a whole event for herself, and so we were great to have students as well as our city partners. Hannah, I'll come to you. What would you like to highlight?
I think, as other people have said, working with our partners is something that I felt made this festival really good. Instead of us deciding what we thought other people wanted to see in the events, we've really listened to our partners, to the communities, and come up with a programme that's really exciting and really engaging and shows all the brilliant projects that go on in Bradford and that the university are really, really happy to support. And two of the events that I worked on that particularly did that were Cars, Culture and Cinema last night. Really enjoyed that event, working with Bradford City of Film. And then, as Richard said, the festival's been used to launch quite a few activities and projects. And one of those, the things that I've worked on, was launching a competition called Recreate, which is asking people to come up with ideas to recreate unused spaces in the city. And I've worked with Bradford 2025 on that. And again, that's just been such a brilliant experience and something that I've really enjoyed.
Definitely, and the details of Recreate are on our UNIfy website extra. You can get a competition entry in for unused spaces, so do check that out. I'm sure Laura will put the link in the chat for you, but it's a brilliant competition. So I hope what these reflections gave is an understanding of our intentions to the festival and recognition of what we intended to do and the fact that we couldn't do this without collaboration and we couldn't do this without all of you. So I am just going to move on, just bear with me. Here we go. I'm just waiting for the auto cue to catch up. Here we go. So I'm really excited now to launch a project that was proposed as part of the open consultation by Mark Dolby, who is Director of Story, Film and Photography, based here in Bradford. Over to Mark to introduce Pass the Portrait.
Back in 2010, I was working at the University of Bradford when I took delivery of my first proper digital camera. And I always remember walking home through the city that night. I was taking some terrible pictures of letterboxes and trees when I heard this guy shout, "Hey mate, are you from the TNA?" And I sort of spun round and we shared a smile, and I explained to him I was just there testing my new digital camera. And he said, "Oh mate, come take my picture." It was at this point that I noticed that there was a lady stood behind him, and I think he might have been trying to impress her. But I was really pleased to have a real human being to take a picture of. So I wandered over, and with very little direction from me, I fired off a few frames. I think that was probably the moment I realised that for me, photography is about people. I love the fact that even now when I look back on that picture, I can see a little bit of that cheeky character in the photograph, and I'm always trying to achieve that same thing, capturing something of somebody's character every time that I take their photograph. Since becoming a professional photographer, the other aspect of the job that I've really enjoyed is the places that it's taken me to. I've seen parts of the UK I would never have gone to. I've even been to other countries, and it's been great to get behind the scenes at theatres and TV studios, factories, even the Houses of Parliament. And Pass the Portrait really is a project that combines these two things, people and place. I'm really excited to meet lots of new characters from across the district, and I'm really looking forward to the journey that we're going to go on by visiting lots of different places across Bradford. I'm also hoping that by handing my camera over to them, I can share something of my passion for connecting with people through photography.
Thanks to Mark there. So over the next 12 months, Mark is going to mentor people from across the district to take a portrait of their chosen person. And we aim to tell a range of stories of interesting people who live, work or make Bradford the wonderful place it is. Mark, as the person that proposed the project, chose the first person to have their portrait taken. But from this point on, it'll be determined by who they choose. The first person featuring is Yorkshire Woman of the Year and Lead for Cultural Partnerships at Bradford Council, Nicola Grennan. Here is the portrait. Laura, please share the image. Wow. That's so nice, isn't it? Nick is an amazing ambassador for Bradford, the arts and culture. And Nick will now choose the next person to pass the portrait to. Her chosen person will have their portrait taken by Nick with some mentoring from Mark. And these, along with the other 12 portraits that will be taken through the year, will be shown at UNIfy 2022. Rich, you're going to do a little bit about that exhibition in 2022, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll definitely host it in one of our spaces. I mean, when Mark proposed it, it was clearly an obviously good idea that we were going to take, and I think it's really simple in its concept. But I think I'm really excited to see what it looks like in 12 months' time and all those portraits.
Definitely, especially when we've got the stories that go behind the portraits as well about the people. I'm really excited, yeah. So before we move on to the pitches for content for ideas for next year's festival, I'm just going to introduce one other engagement project. We're going to launch it now and feature it again in 2022. The idea came from Calla Sangham, and I'm going to introduce Alex Croft to give an overview of the idea. Alex, I think you're joining us on Zoom. Welcome.
I am. How are you? All right?
Yeah, we're all good, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's good.
Good. So do you want to just give us a bit of a background about where the idea came from and why you proposed it for UNIfy?
Yeah, so obviously Calla Sangham's got a real history of working with the University of Bradford, and along with Theatre in the Mill, we've been behind the city's Bradford Producing Hub project. Hey, I'm a graduate of Bradford University myself, so wanted to be involved in the process going forward. So when we saw the call out there, we had a real think about what we could do to support and work in partnership. And Calla Sangham, at the heart of what we do is music and dance as art forms. And particularly over the last few years, we've been working with increased numbers of dancers across all different sorts of styles. So historically, lots of people will know Calla Sangham as having real specialism in classical Indian dance, but we also do break dance, we do English folk dance, we do contemporary dance. And so we thought, what would it be like if we could combine that kind of expertise we've got in dance with the role that the University of Bradford plays in academia? So our pitch was, maybe we could take a couple of dancers and introduce them to some academics the University of Bradford could source for us. And over the course of the year, we want to kind of facilitate a conversation between those dancers and academics, see whether they can share some learning and see whether the academic approach can influence the way that we create dance, we create movement, see whether we can use dance as an art form to reflect and interpret the findings of academic research. And who knows where it's going to lead to. So we're trying not to put too much pressure on it. We're not saying we're going to have an all bells and whistles performance at the end of this period, but I think we should have a really interesting year where people can share kind of dialogue and discussion and approaches, and we'll have something creative at the end of it to show people as part of UNIfy 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just really excited about this project, weren't we, Rich? I'm just going to bring Rich in again. He's our artistic director at Theatre in the Mill, and we got so excited about this idea. Do you want to just comment on what the university's thoughts on it are?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's one of those things that I think if the university is really interested in being part of that, the cultural development of the city as well as everything else, and having meaning in the city. But you know, one of the advantages of certainly being Theatre in the Mill, but I think of then the wider arts communities, is that we are sat with all these amazing academics on our doorstep doing such a broad range of really incredible, interesting things, each one actually deserving of its own, I suppose, bit in the spotlight. But when we did the sort of first call out for this, I think straight away we got between 10 and 15 academics straight back that gave us some more information about where their interests lie. But a real enthusiasm for being involved in this. And if nothing else, that's just really exciting that we know that, on top of the 2 or 3 that we might just start this with, that there are other academics out there that we can look at maybe different disciplines with. I mean, I've always said that, like, the difference between, your culture and your art and your science is paper thin. Most of the science is art, it's just seen through a different lens. So I'm really excited that this really will kick off something that, again, 2-3 years down the line, we're going to really see some really exciting projects that show why it's great to have the University of Bradford here, why it's great for an artist to settle here in the city.
Absolutely, and we're just really grateful to Cala Sangham and to Alex for proposing the idea. And at next year's festival, hopefully we'll have something to showcase, but if not, we'll have a really interesting learning journey between our academics. And you can find out a bit more about that on the UNIfy extra pages as well. So we're really interested to see how it evolves, and good luck to our artists, and thanks, Alex, again.
You're welcome.
So we now move to the pitch element of the event. So at the beginning of UNIfy, we received 45 ideas for content for this year's festival, some of which it just wasn't possible to develop in time or in an online format. But we didn't want to lose those ideas. And as we intend for UNIfy to be an annual event, and we thought, why not begin the planning for 2022 now? Well, we might take this weekend to have a glass of something cold, but come Monday morning, we'll be back on the planning. And it'll start now with inviting some of our idea submissions to present today. So we, you, and everyone else can get a feel of some of the ideas and consider if you could collaborate to make it happen. You'll be able to vote for your favourite at the end, and we'll invite you to make any comments in the chat or raise your hand if you want to make it verbally at the time when you're invited to do so. I do need to do a little bit of a disclaimer here. The university cannot commit to developing all ideas that are pitched, but we hope this event will gain support for ideas to allow development by collaboration. So first up, we've got an idea from a member of staff here at the university, which is Janet Smith-Harrison. So I'll invite Janet to give her pitch. Janet, nice to see you in the STEM Centre there.
Yes, welcome to the STEM Centre, everybody. So the STEM Centre, if I don't know whether people know much about it, but we are approaching our 10th year, which is incredible to think that it's been that long. But yes, the spade went in the ground and started creating this brilliant resource just coming up to 10 years ago. So I thought it would be a fantastic idea to go out to the city and ask who they feel are the most important Bradford STEM pioneers. So it's a 2-part project. So the first part would be doing exactly going out and getting ideas from people. It might be somebody that we've all heard of. It might be somebody that's famous all over the globe, or it might be somebody in their family, somebody who had a really significant impact in this city, in their family, and actually they want to make that name known and celebrate them as part of our 10-year celebrations. So there'll be a public engagement exercise to start with, and we'll unearth all these pioneers that we don't know anything about. And the second part is a photographic, art-based collaboration. It will need to be, because as much as I love art and love photography, I'm not neither of those things. So I'll need some collaborators to help me with that. And the idea is, and I don't know if I try to turn this, there's a big blank space there. And the idea is that as part of our celebrating 10 years, we create a photography exhibition that will go on that wall that celebrates all the names and all the people, and maybe places we don't know what we're going to unearth, and we can display those on there for everybody to see. So that is my pitch, which is well below the 5 minutes that I was allocated. But it's quite a simple project. I definitely need collaborators though, definitely. But I wanted to be in here because I wanted everybody to see the big blank white space where we want to have this brilliant celebration. I think having looked at a little bit at the health and safety, we might have to have some kind of perspex cover because it's in the lab, but this is not beyond us. We can make this happen. So yeah, so that's my pitch, and get in touch if you'd like to get involved with us.
Brilliant. Janet, and it's so nice to see the STEM Centre. I can't believe it's 10 years since it opened. It still feels like a new building on campus, doesn't it? So have we got any suggestions for STEM pioneers or people that might like to collaborate at this in the audience? If we have, please do feel free to comment or raise your hand if you'd like to make any comments. But what we'll be doing is putting these pitches, not pictures, out for consultation. So we'll be proposing them on the website and getting people to comment and get involved. So how do they get in touch with you, Janet, if they're interested in doing that?
I think email me in the first instance. So we'll put, if we can put my email out there.
We'll put that on when we do the video, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll see, depending on who we get to collaborate with us, we'll take it from there. And it's, I think at the moment, I've got I've got the image of that wall being kind of a celebration as part of the 10 years. But beyond that, it's to create. So I think as we were, there's a bit of a theme emerging here, because I was thinking this whole thing around the paper thin line between science and art, I think it's really important to us. It's something that we bring up a lot in our conversations with young people, to say, you know, actually, you're not either an arts person or a science person, which I think is what subjects do to people. You make choices and you feel as though it's taking you down those paths, but actually it is paper thin, and both those worlds influence each other, and we'd like to have some of that in here.
Great. Yeah, I can see that Shirley's made a suggestion for a great STEM ambassador in the comments there as well. And I think that conversation was really part of the childhood event on Monday evening, where we were talking about creativity, and we were talking about it in the sort of arts and cultural sector, and it was one of our professors, Marcus Rattray, that brought in that, you know, STEM is a really creative area as well, but it's just creative in a very different way. So I think that's really something that we need to sort of bring together. And I know it's something that's really close to Rich's heart, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, Marcus is great as well, isn't he? He's a real ambassador, certainly from our point of view, of the arts, and they need to be in sort of infiltrated more in the academic world as well. But I mean, I think it's a great idea. I always bore people though with the, you know, we are also a technology university as well, and I think that there's a real need, I think, for artists, where not to be led by technology, but if that's the way that we communicate, that's the way that the world sort of is being shaped, then we need to be at the foreground. The artists need to be at the foreground, and academics of that as well. So to think about, I always say it's a bit trite, but you know, if the internet's going to be in your toaster, it's going to be in your art. And it's probably the same with everything. It's going to be there. So thinking about ways of actually using that as a creative tool, I think would be really interesting.
Definitely, yeah. And I think as well, it was really interesting, Janet, that you were saying as well, role models in families as well as these sort of really well-known STEM pioneers. I think that's a really interesting angle to bring those stories out. Yeah, and I think it's a bit similar to Pass the Portrait. We want to show people that are perhaps not as well known in Bradford, because we've got so many amazing people here.
Yeah, and there are a lot of known kind of people that come from Bradford and have invented and built mills and that kind of thing. But I think there are in each person's family, if there's somebody that we don't know about, but actually was very influential or invented something or made, I don't know, you know, changed a practice in one of the mills in days gone by, let's find out about them and celebrate them as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. That brings us to the end of the first pitch then. I can see some people that are going to get in touch with you, so that's fantastic, because that's exactly what this event is all about. So thank you, Janet. Our second pitch today comes from partners who hosted a fantastic event on Wednesday. I welcome Will Moore and Adrian, who's from the university, to make their pitch. Over to you.
Hi, thanks very much. Yeah, we were thrilled with the event on Wednesday, and yeah, ever so grateful to all the support we received. So yeah, that event was entitled Bradford, a Place of Sanctuary and Peace Building. And for next year, we're planning an event celebrating sanctuary and diversity in Bradford, which will be highlighting all the variety of amazing and diverse contributions to the city from people seeking sanctuary, who have sought sanctuary, asylum seekers and refugees and others. So this will be a collaboration between people seeking sanctuary here in Bradford the various agencies, many of which were highlighted in the film that we showed this week, the various agencies supporting them, refugee community organisations themselves, and the wonderful university's Breathe Digital Archaeology project. So I'm just about to introduce Dr. Adrian Evans from this project from the university's archaeology and he'll correct me now, archaeology department, who's going to kick off, followed by Mo Rahman from Bradford's Biosand group. And then I'll just wind up at the end.
Thank you, Will. So yeah, we had an amazing event this week, and the obviously original plan for that was to do something that was very engaging down in the city square or somewhere, using a whole range of different events, and we'd basically want to try and do that in a much bigger style next year. We're very proud at the moment, the university, to recently have launched a program in heritage and archaeology, and the reason for doing that is partly in the sort of a good understanding and celebration of multiculturalism and the value of various heritages around the world that we've got in the mixing pot of the Bradford community. Part of the research that we've been doing is working with refugees overseas to try and bring communities together through a shared understanding of varied heritage. And we've been doing that using digital technologies, digital heritage, virtual reality, where people can propose places that they want to show off to individuals and groups who don't know anything about their history and past and the things that they value, and use that as a mechanism to forge stronger communities that've got a good understanding of each other. And we're bringing that research home because Bradford's the perfect place to do this sort of thing because of the rich communities that we have. So we're very happy to be looking forward to working with these different groups, talking to different individuals over the course of this year, building towards an event where we'll, alongside all these other things that Will and Mo will talk about, we'll have an interactive virtual reality space, an immersive space that will allow individuals to share heritage from all around the world and from within Bradford, whatever's interesting and valuable. And along with that, there's the rich stories of plight and celebration, which can be so inspiring. Just from doing some of the filming for the videos this week, it's so inspirational listening to individuals that have come from all around the globe into Bradford. So yeah, really looking forward to this sort of thing next year and building up towards it.
Hi folks, my name is Musat Rahman. So as part of the pitch, one of the activities we're looking at is the World Peace Tree activity, which is dedicated to the Global Bradford Collective, which seeks to achieve solidarity and mutual understanding between all migrants, about migrants in the wider community, and celebrate our diversity of cultures. The tree represents the many diverse nationalities represented in Bradford. Participants will create leaves with personal messages of inspiration and hope for themselves, the city and the wider world. Another part of the project, one of the activities, is called Sowing Seeds of Hope. Next to the Peace Tree, there will be a space for seed planting workshop, planting seeds, inspiration and aspirations for the future. This will be run by a local community organisation called Horton Community Farm. We will also host an open mic session run by Bradford Refugee Forum with song, poetry and other performances from Bradford's refugee communities. There will also be a display of the Humanising exhibition. It is a display of artwork, stories and photography by sanctuary seekers, symbolising their wish and desire to be seen as human beings first.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mo and Adrian. So, yeah, then finally, ideally, as part of the same event with the Mo's and Adrian have listed and a range of workshops and activities, we want to host, as we have at previous events, like Bradford's wonderful mailer, for those who remember it, and the Positive Bradford and Refugee Week events, to have a marketplace with refugee community organisations and many of the organisations that work with and support asylum seekers, to promote and raise awareness of the work that they do, to provide opportunities for encounter, for meeting meeting each other for people who just have a relaxed opportunity and space to ask questions. And alongside that, or running parallel with that, we plan, as we have before, to food hygiene, other regulations permitting, to provide some hot food cooked by local refugee communities, and also musical performances. So the ideal would be that would be merged with the events already discussed, but possibly also separately at the planned community open day at the end of the week. And so we'll be planning, clearly we've done some planning and it's all been rather a rush, but we've got some very clear ideas for things which have been trialed elsewhere before, and some of which, like the wonderful project Adrian's mentioning, are completely new. So we'll be developing these plans during the coming year, working with the local community of sanctuary seekers and those who are supporting them. And you'll be able to trial some of these events, we'll test them out at some milestone points during the year, mentioning to start with the Refugee Week in June, the Intercultured Festival in October, and possibly Being Human Festival in November. So we really hope you share our vision and our enthusiasm, and we'll look forward to seeing you and participating next year. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to Wilma and Adrian there. And there's just so much in that idea. I love it. It's so exciting. I wonder, Rich, if you want to come in on some of those ideas. I know virtual reality is quite close to your heart in the arts at the moment.
Well, I mean, I was lucky to see the work they were doing with VR, and it actually is really incredible. It's one of the reasons why I like VR, again, not because of its like shiny mirrors, but I genuinely think it sort of is an intimacy and an empathy accelerator, that it gives you the autonomy to have your own experience. You're not being dictated where you're looking at what you're looking at, but you get to be that close up and personal to it. And for some of the reactions to the work that they've had has been extraordinary in what in the emotive response that has. But then I think all of it for me sits in the wheelhouse. I'm a big fan of hosting and of and having food at the heart of it, and what that does. And it really, what it all sits under that umbrella of socially responsible work, which is where our real focus is as well. I think one of the great things about the art scene and the cultural scene and things is that it's got a moral heart here. That's why it's what Bradford University is all about as well. And I think it's something that we can all be proud of and can shout more out. And that there's just so many opportunities within this to, I think, spotlight and platform the stuff that we do.
Definitely. And Will alluded to it there. We were hoping to have a big community open day this year on campus, because one of the things that we do find is that whilst the university is within the city, we're slightly apart because of that big hill up Great Horton Road. So we want to get loads of people onto campus and in the city. So this big community open day is an idea that we'll definitely take forward next year. And that marketplace idea, I love that. And the idea of food, I mean, who doesn't love that? And I think what struck us this year, Anna worked with Will and Mo on the sanctuary event earlier this week, is just that need for us not to actually see the sanctuary seekers as individuals and understand their stories, their talents, their passions, and it really struck me when we were talking to Mo how we just sort of say sanctuary seekers and put that in a box of identity, and they've all got such amazing, fascinating stories to tell. So if we can do that as part of UNIfy, and I know, Mo, do you want to say anything about the festivals that you've got coming up, the Intercultural Festival in October as well, because that was quite similar to UNIfy, but different as well.
Well, it's a bit smaller, definitely. It's literally going to be, again, we're going to be working with people in the community. We definitely, obviously, it's more about giving a focus to asylum seeker refugees or sanctuary seeker communities, but also supporting organisations. And we've got some things planned in, like poetry and little bits of activities at the moment. It's just not set yet. So, but that'll be coming up in October.
Brilliant. Look out for that then, people. Hannah, is there any comments in the chat on this idea? Is there anything to bring in else? Should we move on to the next pitch?
Yes, Alistair Goldman has said, as you said, refugees have been coming to Bradford for decades. It would be nice to see historical perspective too, perhaps photos from refugees of decades past, etc., to show that this is a common, long-lasting thread. And I think with this project and with Past the Portrait and with the pitch that Janet did, it's about celebrating people's stories, isn't it? I think that's a really nice thread that's coming through on these pictures.
Yeah, so it looks like there's some interest there as well. And what do you think, Will or any of you, what do you think you need to support this project? What's the key thing for us to get to UNIfy 2022 and be able to host this range of engagement activities?
Sleep.
Tell me about it.
To be honest, what we're hoping to do is not organise something ourselves, but representing all the communities that we work with. Each of those, ourselves, Bradford City Sanctuary, Biosan, is mostly run by volunteers. Mo and I are both volunteers. We need people to come alongside and work and bring their ideas, inspiration, energy, creativity to support what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. This isn't just a plug for that, but there are so many brilliant organisations in the city, so many brilliant groups that they do struggle with just the practicalities of running day to day. So we hope that this event this week, next year, will not just raise awareness but generate support and energy and contributions.
Yeah, it's building that sort of community of friends, isn't it, around this? Yeah. Sorry, Mel.
It's all right. We're trying to also provide opportunities for the sanctuary seeker communities to take a charge, in a sense, to know to lead and on events and proposals, and have fun in doing it as well. To be honest.
Absolutely, yeah, brilliant.
We're very fortunate at the university through the high funding to have had investment in the development of a virtual reality space and hub, which gives us some of the technology that give us a front end to some of these things, and we're actively working on research funding to sort of back this event as well. Basically, the work that we've done, Karina Croucher, Owen Green, Andy Wilson, and myself in Jordan, we can apply for follow-on funding to do the same sort of program here, and it's linking into these events that Mo and Will are talking about. So that
just to answer one question that's just come through from Shirley, I think we'd love your students to get involved with our groups. We put a call out for more volunteers. We're definitely interested in more people learning about what we do and finding ways to engage in different activities as well.
Yeah, Shirley, would you like to make any comments? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I can see your comments.
Well, I just think we've got so many students that we need to give many different types of opportunities to, and it doesn't matter whether they're a student in computing science or pharmacy or engineering. They've got many, many talents, and we want to expose them to the interdisciplinarity of what's going on in the university and just the heart of Bradford, really. And I often find that our international students are more eager to get involved than some of our home students. So if we can encourage our local Bradford students to get involved, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think what we have found through UNIfy Festival is a really wide engagement with students. We've had a student engagement group, and I think there's quite a few students joining us today. So hopefully we can build on that momentum of them being engaged with projects and bring them into this one as well. So, Will, yes.
Thank you, Ron. I'm not certain if it's developed yet, but many universities have STAR groups, Student Action for Refugees, and there has been an active group at the university in the past, and we'd love to see that develop again. I know I attended the last University Sanctuary Working Group meeting, and certainly there's a desire to get one going. We'd love to guide and support where we can, but that would be brilliant to see something developing on the campus itself within the university.
Yeah, we should follow that up, Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. We've got our new sabbatical officers elected now. They'll be starting soon. So we'll make that introduction and we'll look at the Bradford Star Group, because I know that it was in the past quite active, but I'm not sure where it's at either, but we'll take that back for sure. Great. Well, I'll thank you all for giving that pitch. And again, we'll be publishing this online afterwards and we will follow this up, but it was really, really interesting. So the next pitch, I'm going to invite Lauren Kelly and Shiraz Ali to make their pitch. Over to you guys.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. Hope you're well. Hopefully everyone can see my screen that I'm sharing. Hi, so just quick introduction. I'm Lauren Kelly. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Bradford. I just recently graduated in 2020 with a fine art degree from Newcastle, and I've just moved back home.
And I'm Shiraz Ali, and I'm 22, and I'm recently just graduated from architecture from the University of Sheffield. And just Lauren, as just Lauren just said, we're both born and raised in Bradford, and it's so amazing to see all of you guys with so much hard effort. We just want to give such a thank you to all of you for putting this event together and, you know, celebrating Bradford. It's got so much to offer. We just love this whole idea. So just thank you to all of you before we start.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll get going, get cracking on.
Yeah, so idea came from about how we like both moved back from uni, and obviously you meet people from like loads of other cities there, and like it's always like a bit of a like joke, like, oh, you're from Bradford, like that's the, you know, people have like such a sometimes a bad outlook of it who are from other places, and that always kind of like used to really annoy us, because of it obviously all the great things and stuff. So when we came back home, we really wanted to get more involved with like the Bradford art scene, because like that's actually where we're from. So we had this idea of creating a collaborative art mural piece. So all about engaging with the community and celebrating all things Bradford, inspiring people just to think about what they love about Bradford, like celebrating all the different identities that live in the city. So the idea is to create a large mural inspired piece of work to which we would then invite submissions for. So there would be kind of a piece created initially which would then act as like a springboard to like inspire people to think about what they think about when they think of Bradford, like favorite things they love about the city, and kind of add on to this big piece so it becomes like one large big collaborative piece. Because I think another like thing about the festival, like it was all about collaboration. We feel like this would really kind of invite people, hopefully in like a non-intimidated way, like to kind of come together, think about things that we all have in common, think about all our differences, like think about people who actually go to Bradford Uni. There's students who have lived in Bradford all their life, but there'll also be like lots of international students, people who've just moved here, and all different religions and ethnicities, like ages. So I'm sure there'll be like obviously a lot of different experiences and stuff that people can bring to the table, but then how that relates to how they're finding like living in Bradford, being from Bradford, wherever they're from, and just collaborate all that together.
And this is also about kind of celebrating Bradford's landmarks. So I think just as Lauren and the whole festival is all about collaboration and getting people involved and the community involved and celebrating the city, but it's also, I think, so transformative. It has such a potential to really reinvent and transform spaces that are previously unused. Like there's so many the architecture in Bradford is beautiful, as you all know, and some of the spaces are unused or not used, could have such a higher function and a purpose for people to enjoy and be multifunctional space. So this is about really allowing people to make their mark on a space and allow it to grow and evolve over time and become a new, you know, epicenter for a meeting point, or just to have your lunch. It could even be to have your lunch, but I think the colour and the murals and the transformational process of the kind of art can really just reinvent loads of different places. And I think it has a very kind of a flexible approach to it. So essentially, you know, the spaces that we target or the areas we locate, we can completely, you know, reform that, and it can be very adaptable in terms of where it can be relocated and it's for the future. You know, it could be something that doesn't actually last for just this festival. It could actually be, you know, 3-4 years that it could be there and could be celebrated. So it could have a really large impact. And I think we'll go on to the next slide if that's okay, Lauren.
Yeah. So we just made a mock-up of kind of like what we're in like thinking about when we think of people adding to the piece. So kind of like on the picture before where there was like blank spaces, we'd want there'd be like an initial mural which has like a Bradford landmark or just some text, like whatever it could be. This is just like a quick mock-up, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the picture on the right with the little like additions in the window is just count what we envision when we think like people submitting. And we're not thinking like, oh, only people know how to draw, like, you know, stuff like that of people submitting. We know that like art isn't something people are always comfortable with. So when we say submissions, it like drawings, like photos, people might want to stick on like text, like a sentence, like literally anything that they want. Like we won't want to kind of limit people because we want everyone to be invited and everyone to feel comfortable. That's what we envision when we've like kind of photoshopped in the little windows, just like little drawings and stuff. So then even though there's like an initial piece, like in the end as a whole, it's not just one person like me or Shiraz who like created the piece. It's going to be a big collaboration of everyone coming together, so then everyone can kind of own this mural as like their own piece of work.
And this is also kind of looking at potentially a bigger project, or allowing something to really grow and develop over time and engaging with the community. But currently I'm working with Biotexture, which are the leading company for living green walls in the UK. And essentially what we're just doing on another project I thought would be incredible to put some energy into Bradford and try and create a project similar like that. So integrating living green walls. And that's so similar to Adrian and the archaeology department of sowing the seeds. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And I think, you know, planting a seed for now is, you don't know what it's going to develop in the future. And it's really about sparking that, that energy into the town and to people. So this is just kind of a mock-up on, you know, Centenary Square. Obviously, it's a beautiful space as it is. However, kind of integrating planting and living green walls and artworks within that space can just really, I think, uplift it for summer and provide a really beautiful kind of, I think personally, this is investment into human well-being. Is something that's sustainable and people can really cherish for a long time. And I think that's what me and Lauren really wanted to kind of celebrate our home and bring people together, you know, any way we can. And we thought art was, you know, the way we could do it. So I'm really hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. We'd love to get some questions, and a big thank you again for getting us involved. It's been fantastic seeing all the work you guys have done. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So we kind of want to call out, like, just if anyone has any ideas on how to improve the project we're thinking about, any like other artists who want to like think about how we're going to create like this initial piece and stuff like that. And then, like we said, like we don't know like if this is going to something that's going to be up for years or if it's going to be there for like a week or something like that. But kind of we've had some ideas about how we can make this go on further, like including like if this piece couldn't be up for a long time, could we kind of collate everyone's submissions and like make like a little zine publication, something like that, so people who have spent time and submitted and stuff, who want to kind of remember their work even if they can't see it up anymore, like they could have something to like take away from that. So yeah, any ideas, thoughts, collaborators, all welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to Lauren and Shiraz there. I mean, I first of all love it. I just absolutely love it. And the fact that you've both returned to Bradford after your studies, we can forgive you going to other universities when it's subjects we don't do at Bradford, just about. But you've come back to Bradford with such passion and such enthusiasm and want to contribute to this amazing, amazing city that we're in. I love the inclusive nature of it because I'm not very artistic, but I love to be able to contribute, and I don't think I'd pass any criteria if it was on artistic merit. But I think I will possibly hand over to Rich as our artistic director, because I know how many networks and things you have, and links into the art scenes in Bradford.
I'm concerned that I can't be succinct about this one because there's so much in it and it's really good. But I'd start by going, isn't it good? This is what the first thing we want to see is that that artistic creative talent comes back to Bradford and retains here. It does remind Susan Butler, who's an artist, author, amazing. When she was living in Bradford for a while, she compared Bradford. She said Bradford is the Brooklyn to Leeds' Manhattan, and that's really stayed with me. And I genuinely think Bradford really is on the cusp of something quite amazing and special in the fact that, unlike other places, Bradford actually has the potential to have stuff to actually completely change how it physically feels and looks. It's got a council that are really up for change and for thinking of itself as a creative city. And this idea sits bang in the center of that. It's that about people want to read this city differently. You want to come to Bradford and you want to see it, and immediately you know you're in a creative city, that you're in a cultural city that is doing something different to the other places. And unlike a lot of the other cities, there's the opportunity to do that, whether that's because there is still spaces that are unused or abandoned, or the fact that there's got a council that's very much open to saying yes, come and play on top of our spaces, put on top. So the first thing I want it to be is to keep the ambition, not to have this as like a very temporary exhibition, but to actually go out there and go, let's go for something permanent, go for something at least semi-permanent. And then you really had me as soon as we think, well, what's that organic, that sort of the natural world then entered into that, using these natural products as paint tools as well is really exciting. So there's just so much in there, but I'd say let's go with it. Let's find that ambition, because I think I'd love to see by the time we get to 2025, which hopefully we'll have won capital culture, that actually you come to Bradford and everyone goes, wow, this is the place, this is the destination, because it looks like a creative city. And it's things like this that will do that, by going, actually, how can we be really experimental and ambitious on the place that we live? And so that everybody that's in there, all the people from Bradford, the residents and the students and the academics here, suddenly see their city in a new light. That's one that's not in the shadow of anywhere else, but is actually putting everywhere else in shade by the ambition of this place.
Yeah, and I can see Shirley's commented as well that she loves this idea, and a mural at the university would be wonderful. And I think that reflects that sort of the university's commitment as well to the City of Culture. I think if we're doing some of these projects as well in the city, let's extend them to campus, let's bring them up here. Would you like to comment further, Shirley, or are you happy? Because I know you've put it in the comments there.
No, but we've really got to, I keep saying we've got to open our doors. People often say about universities, we can't find a front door. Well, we don't want a front door. We want massive bifold doors all the way around the university. We want to throw them up. So we want to get involved with all of these projects. It's really important for us to offer the space and the expertise to help people, but to give people voice. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lauren and Shiraz, what do you think you need as the next step to make this project more of a reality?
Firstly, thank you so much for the wonderful comments and the feedback. It's just, we appreciate it so much. So it's really great to hear. And I think in terms of the next steps, there's so much potential and flexibility here. So I think really kind of targeting demographics and geography of the city, and really kind of deciding where is this going to be the biggest impact and the highest proportion of people visiting and the community engagement. But I think, again, it could, just as Rich was saying, I think this could definitely be something semi-permanent and long-lasting, for the future. And I think we could do it as kind of one big project in the centre of town, or it could be kind of dotted around and kind of almost as a route. It could even be a route of different murals and different experiences that run around the city and really celebrate each part, through to Building, to BT3, to everywhere, to the centre. So I think it has hopefully huge potential. But Lauren, if you'd like to mention anything.
Basically everything that you just said, yeah, like really like target areas, like where do we think it's going to have the most impact, and then like you were saying before, Shiraz, about like all these unused spaces, like can we like get in contact with these places, like can we find if they'll let us kind of do anything there, and yeah, like, or even like the university, like I guess one of the things that people promote when they think about cities is like their landmarks, their education and stuff like that. So if anything could happen on there as well. Yeah,
great. So I think what we're saying is collaboration, conversations. Let's start to think about, I think there's definitely a conversation with the council and with some of the cultural organisations in Bradford. So great, fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for putting this pitch together. It was really, really, really exciting. And we're going to move in a slightly different direction now. We've got two pitches left. Next up, we have Peter Nias. Peter, over to you to make your pitch.
Right, thank you very much. And can I have the first slide, please? And the first one thereof. It's a bit different from everyone else, as you said. It's trying to use the Bradford's 40 different subject areas to try to do something about adverse future climatic change. And I didn't know there were so many until I had a look, and there might even be more than this. But the idea is but rather than just thinking in individual silos, but first to get them all as part of the exercise, and then also to think differently as well. So if I go to the next slide, please. The idea is to use the expertise in and the cooperation between all these subject areas to generate medium to longer term kind of climatic ideas or implementation. But it does need the Vice Chancellor's enthusiastic approval, please. And for reasons I'll say in a moment. Okay, the next one, please. The idea is that there will be a briefing paper from the VC's office to each of the subject areas, and to try to inspire those to think outside the box rather, and to come up with big, medium and small ways of ameliorating climate change within the district. And to have an initial time scale, say for 12 months, don't mind, starting at the end of this year. And the aim being to have, to try to promote the actual subject as well as the university, and to have sharing seminars between subjects. And perhaps the output being a kind of think tank theory and practical ideas for the district. I know this sort of thing is not necessarily done within most universities in terms of interdepartmental work in quite the same way. And I know there's many top-down approaches, and in fact currently the university is looking at the climate issues, but I'm trying to look at it from the bottom up. And the next one, please. I put forward a few ideas, just basic ones, that any individual department, staff or students could come up with from the medical point of view or the mental point of view, as well as the technical point of view about the solar panels and engineering and planning and accountancy to try and make things economically worthwhile. Using the media and film and animation type of course, and particularly looking at emergent studies from elsewhere in the world in international development and law and in terms of productivity. So there's a wide variety of things which I think the university would be able to help on. And with the next one, please. As I said, it would be good for the university as well as for the district. It would cover the research and knowledge transfer and also encourage lateral thinking, which obviously universities are meant to be good at as well. And as far as I know, no one else is trying to do anything like this. So this would be our Bradford first. And I can offer to assist in any initial draft of a briefing paper if you wish, but basically I would see this to be a university, an internal university driven idea, but then to get then to promote it outside the university as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. As we said before, a very different idea from some of the earlier ones. So I think just to bring in a few comments, because I had spoken to Peter briefly about this idea before, and I've actually also had a conversation with our Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Knowledge Transfer, John Bridgman, about it as well, because it's kind of huge. It's kind of really, really huge. But Shirley's new strategy actually has a commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, one of which, of course, is climate change. So as part of John's work at the moment, he's doing some thinking, planning, researching around climate change and how many of our research and innovation can consider that. And I suppose what I would just like to comment on is how much we've seen the issue of climate change come up through the development of UNIfy Festival this year. In fact, Hannah had an event idea from a student, which we did run earlier this week. Hannah, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so we had an idea from a student called Maria, and she wanted to do an event on sustainability and climate change. And it turned into Zero Waste Bradford and looked at 5 tips of how people can reduce waste in their households. And it was brilliant. If Maria's here today, it was such a brilliant event. Everyone really enjoyed it. And one of the key things that I think came through that is that not one person can't do everything, but everybody can do something. And if we all change a habit or our way of working, we can all make a difference to the issue of climate change. And I think as well, just thinking about Peter's idea and our students and the multidisciplinary aspect of it, we know from, didn't the World Technology Universities Network do a competition for students around their ideas on climate change? And so we know that by students coming together across disciplines and coming up with ideas, they could come up with some really good ideas as well.
Definitely. So that sort of bottom-up approach that Peter was talking about, we've seen just in a small way in action without having sort of a briefing in place already, that's come naturally through people's passion for tackling climate change. Shirley, a really big idea. Is there any sort of comment you'd like to come back with to Peter on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, we have committed to do more on climate change. Stuart McKinnon-Evans, who's our Chief Finance Officer, is running our project, and he's strengthening our strategy, and we're going to be working on it this year in terms of net zero, etc., and all that's included in that. So what I think would be a good thing to do, Professor Anand is also getting involved in this, and he's going to be helping us with the KPIs that we're going to be revisiting, which are connected to the Sustainable Development Goals and the climate emergency, etc. I think it would be really good if we could have a chat with Peter about the idea and involve Stuart and Anand, and maybe get John Bridgman there as well, because we're locating what we need to do formally in a strategy and an action plan. And if we can take some of these ideas that Peter's proposing, I think we would need to start working on it now if we wanted to do something that we could be demonstrating next year at UNIfy. But it's part of something we need to do and we should be doing more on. So it's great that Peter's come forward with this.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Shirley. And that's very similar to what John suggested as well when I went to him with the idea. So that's brilliant. We're all pointing in the same direction. My colleague Sonia, who's supporting the event today, works for the WTUN, and they've made climate change one of their priorities. WTUN is a network of international universities that look to support and work together to solve some of the global challenges. She's going to put a link in the chat about some of the work they're doing in a student competition that's open as well, just in case there's any students that are interested in pitching an idea for that, because it's a good prize. You get to go to Malaysia, so, you know, I might pose as a student and enter myself. Yeah. Peter, thank you so much for that idea. It's great to see the diversity there. So our final pitch is by Julia Armstrong, who I had a really fascinating conversation with about her work as a census engagement officer, and it led to this idea. So Julia, I'm going to come over to you.
Yes, hello everyone. It was a fascinating conversation, and it's one of many that I've had while I've been doing this job as census engagement manager. So it's a short-term job. I've just got 6-7 months to get to know the people of Bradford and make sure the census works. And my pitch is kind of indirectly connected to that, but as you'll hear from the other things I want to talk to you about today, that actually it's some ideas that lie very close to my heart. And it's something that the opportunity to work out what do I do next actually has been really helpful to think about what we're doing here. So the idea for this pitch is something called What is a Bradfordian in 2021? I just want to tell you about where the idea came from. I'm going to tell you about why I want to do it and why this ties into some of my own sort of passions, really. And I also want to tell you about the forum I've got for what we might be able to do with some of the things that I want to do as part of this project, really. I'm a newcomer to the city, and I had my impression of Bradford from living down south for many years. And a few years ago, I started to travel across the UK a lot more for work. And I had my eyes opened really to the impression that I had of what the north was like. Completely changed, all went out the window. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, I'm moving up to West Yorkshire myself. So here I am. And this particular project, the idea came about while I've been talking to lots of different people in Bradford over the last 6 months. And one of the things that's really, really strongly emerged is there's lots of people in Bradford who want their own community to stand out now, to be counted and to be taking their part on the stage of Bradford, really. And Dr. Manosh is here, actually. I spotted his name somewhere there. He's someone who's put me in touch with lots of really, really interesting people. And I've had some fascinating conversations with people that might have come to Bradford over many years and now feel very much that this is their time to say that they should take their part in the public life in the city, perhaps. It's tied in with some of the work that Will at City of Sanctuary has done as well. I'm doing lots of work with people who are newly arrived to Bradford to make sure they all count in the census. And using 2021 as a census sort of turning point, really, to say, well, who are we now? And it clearly just fits in entirely with everything that everyone else is talking about in all the various ideas people have had today. It's been absolutely fascinating, really, really fascinating. It makes me feel that the things I'm thinking of are actually very relevant to what's happening now. So what is it I want to do? What I actually want to do is start to collect people's stories. One of the things that's emerged, pretty much every single person I've talked to is about their pride in their part of Bradford society, really. Their sense of place, of what this place is, of what they've seen change over the years in this place. Families that have had a background in working in the wool industry, people that have come through various generations, people that have been here for their, born and bred from, I chatted with someone yesterday who's about 87, he was, as part of my census work, and talking to me about the job he had at Bradford Royal Infirmary and things like that. There's a huge pride in the place that I'd like to start to collect those stories, really. And why should I collect stories? Why is that my thing, I suppose is the next question. Well, my background before doing this current job is in guidance. So I've worked for many years helping people figure out what they want to do with the future, with their own lives, but using a narrative approach to do that. So it's underpinned by people's answers are within, and you have to hear a lot about their own lives to help them figure out what it is that they're going to do next. And that's where some of this makes a lot of sense to me, because it's the same skills that I would like to do to collect some of these stories, to understand more about what people think about Bradford now at this point. It's been such a dramatic year. People want to really start to reimagine what they are now. So yes, I want to use my skills as a guidance practitioner to collect people's stories, not from the aim of saying they've got to do something different in the future, which is what I've done in my job in the past, but really because it's important to listen to them. And that's the other side of the narrative work. It's really valuable to give people an opportunity to talk and listen to them. I'm professionally nosy. That's what really goes on in my working life, has always been, I want to hear about how people ended up doing what they're doing, which is great for careers guidance, but it's also interesting for every other sort of developmental thing you could do, is how did you end up where you are now, to work out what you're going to do next. So that all sounds great. That all sounds absolutely fantastic. There's some rich material there. Hopefully I've got some of the right skills to gather some of this together, but you have to decide what to do with it next. There's no point in me gathering all these stories and leaving a pile of bits of paper everywhere, or is it recorded, or am I just giving impressions, or what might it be? So there's two things left really to think about. One is what forum can this all be held in? And one of the things when I moved to this area just nearly 2 years ago now, was I hooked up with a friend of my brother's who also was from down south, but who came to university here in the 1980s and stayed. And between himself, myself, and another friend, the three of us, we've set up a community interest company called Bradford Woolly Heritage, largely based around Glyn's interest in the history of the wool industry in Bradford. But Dan and I know that we want to do something more with it as well, that we've got a great idea here, we want to do something else with it. Of course, it all got parked for the last year. But we had a really long talk about this last week, and actually the idea of collecting people's stories in Bradford, I think, is going to become a central part of Bradford Woolly Heritage. We don't know what we want to do with them yet, and that's what I actually want to use this pitch for, is to work out what do we do with this. We've got some lovely resources here. People's stories are so important. newly arrived people, but people, as I say, who've lived there 87 years, born and bred in Bradford. So the pitch is about getting some ideas about how to structure and develop my approach for gathering people's stories. I don't know what we do with it. I don't know if it's going to turn into an oral history, a resource. We use it as a source material for a different creative outcome. Whether we use it as a teaching resource, whether we make a film, I don't know. And that's where the pitch comes in, about thinking about what's going on with this group here to say, what can we do to help this idea develop into something that contributes more widely to the future of how people feel about Bradford. But so many of the things people have talked about today have absolutely resonated with me. People talk about a sense of place, people talk about a simple project, and some of these are very simple ideas to help recognise what it is to be a part of Bradford right now. And it is clearly on the cusp of a big change, which is absolutely brilliant. And I think I'd like to be part of that. I'd like to do something that contributes to that, using the skills I've got and what I've just spent the last 6 months doing, which is, as a newcomer to the city, finding out much more about what people think about Bradford. So that's me, really. That's my pitch. See what people think.
Thanks so much, Julia. I'm sure everyone listening there can understand why I had such an interesting phone call with Julia.
Yeah,
I thought, census engagement, what does she want to talk to me about? I wonder. And then I was so excited by the end of the call. I mean, we can forgive people for not being born in Bradford. Not everyone has been that lucky. And we welcome you with open arms to our wonderful city. What do people think? I mean, I just think it's just a brilliant idea, don't you?
I think it's brilliant.
I think it encapsulates, doesn't it? I think Julia was right when she goes, actually, it talks to all of the other ideas.
It does.
That's why it's sort of really interesting that it's talking to all of those and what they're doing. I get quite excited by data-driven art, as it were, or whatever. And it is the big question is what you'll gather all of this information. And it's like, what do you do with it? But it's a really good conundrum to have. It's like, what's the output of it? I was really fortunate to be involved in a project that I ran about 10 years ago, which was mapping people's happiness from different cities. And it started in Leeds, and I was fortunate to go to like 20 cities around the world, actually. And actually what we ended up with doing with that data was turn it into a live performance with a big 6-piece band. Now that might not be what for this, but actually what we realized was we just had so much information, we needed to do something with it. And I think it's the same with this. You'll just have it and go, this needs a different output. This needs something. And I think naturally, by what they'll come up with their natural themes and their natural sort of allyships between them. And then you go, oh, it's this, And I think it's about not forcing what it is. It's about letting that tell you what it is. By the way, you'll just look at it and go, oh, it's obvious now. It's a tapestry. It's a meal. It's whatever it turns out to be.
I think that's right. Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant that you feel the same about that, because one of the words sentences I didn't use in my notes here was, I don't want to prejudge what this should be. That's really important, that it emerges from the complexity in the relationships that we find, as well as the detail of people's own, what they want to share. And it's about what they choose to share that does actually dictate then, say, well, that clearly is about this, or it is they express themselves in that way, we should go in that direction. But it's the idea as well that it needs a bit of work to do the first part of this, to start to unpick it. So there is some structure to gathering it. Otherwise, it just becomes a huge pile of things, whether it's piles of bits of paper, mental bits of paper. Yeah. So that would be what I was after, some ideas to help organise it, really.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think through Rich and some of the city cultural networks as well, if we sort of pitch out this idea, we're going to get some of those areas of interest. I know Peter's put something in the comments as well about a story he's done before of gathering stories. Yeah. And I think I'm just really, really pleased. We didn't plan it this way. We had people just randomly suggest their pitches, but I'm pleased how much they complement each other. And as Hannah said earlier, it's about the stories of people, places in Bradford, and the narrative around that is really exciting. And I'm just really pleased that people want to have their voice heard now. And some of the stuff that you found out through the census, Julia, I found really fascinating of people just saying, I actually am part of this Bradford community now, and I've never spoken up before, but here I am. And look at me. So I think this is really exciting as well. So we are drawing towards the close of the event now. And I'd just like to thank all our pitch people. As I say, we're going to use it as a tool for engagement moving forward. After we've all had a bit of a sleep this weekend, we're going to revisit this and consider the next steps as well from the university and UNIfy position. But what I would like to do now is invite Laura, our colleague behind the scenes, who was until very recently our Events and Partnerships Assistant, to launch a poll and for you to vote for your favourite idea. I know they were all brilliant, so don't worry about just picking one, but what we'd just like to do is get a feel for what resonated with the audience here today. And whilst you're completing that, I'd like to thank Laura for all her support in the development and delivery of the festival. Laura moved into our alumni engagement team at the end of March, but has been instrumental in the success of the festival and developing it. And thank you, Laura, you really are an absolute star. And as I've already said, this won't be the only opportunity for people to engage with the development of UNIfy 2022. This event will be published online after the festival and will give partners in our communities the chance to hear the pitches given today. You can note any interest in developing ideas and also submit any new ideas in an open consultation, which will launch in a similar way to what we did in 2021. But for now, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's contributed to the festival, to our partners, to our speakers, to colleagues and students who have helped bring in different voices and perspectives. We'd like to thank our campus support staff who have enabled us to be based here on campus safely, and of course to our attendees who have engaged so openly and enthusiastically with the programme. My final thank you has to go to Matt Overton, Rachel Bottomley and the Digital Working Academy students who have broadcast our live events and produced content for us here in the TV studio. We're so lucky to have such amazing industry standard facilities at Bradford and incredible staff and students who will give most things a go that we ask them to, and we do come to them with a lot of asks. So for now, all I'll say is we can't wait to see you at UNIfy 2022, but we'll see you in between, I'm sure. Thank you so much.